Hey, Hat Tricks fans, the Danbury Hat Tricks have a huge weekend at the Danbury Ice Arena this coming weekend as they host the Binghamton Black Bears for not one, but two games. With Josh Labelle, Wyatt Kopelman here in the Hat Tricks Arena, as we're excited to have you aboard. And Josh, going into this week, you have two big matchups against Binghamton. What are the biggest adjustments that you've seen in practice to go into preparing for this kind of weekend?
The main thing would probably be just work harder. I say we probably put ourselves in the game for 45 to 50 minutes of every game, but as we saw this weekend, you stop playing for 5 to 6 minutes at a time, things can snowball pretty quick. So we're trying to close those gaps and make that happen as little as possible and continue doing that moving forward.
You mentioned the importance of closing gaps, particularly with Binghamton, all the talent it has. It particularly has 4 individuals with 10 points or more. How do you prepare for that kind of talent where you're a leading D-man on this team?
Yeah, they got a good roster over there, a couple stars on their team, but we also do. So we got to make sure that the big guys in our team produce as well as their guys do on the other team. So it's not so much line matching, it's so much as being prepared that when you're on the ice, if they're on the ice, you got to be aware and you got to shut them down.
What are the biggest tendencies that you've noticed having played them twice now and also beating them in overtime up in Binghamton earlier last week?
Yeah, they're a very opportunistic team. They capitalize on their chances. They're kind of like Watertown in the sense where like both teams, if you give them the chance, they're going to put the puck in the back of the net. So you got to minimize those as much as possible. But other than that, if we just play how we play aggressive, we stay on them, we take away their time and space, we can come out with 6 points this weekend.
Having seen both Watertown and Binghamton multiple times, the Wolves play very scrambly. The Binghamton Black Bears, they don't play as much like that. They have a foundation. They play very structured. How do you think that adjustment kind of looks going from one team to another, and what does it take to kind of make that transition each time?
So maybe more so like with a younger team, you'd think like we're more so adjusting to their game plan. But this year with the dynamic we have, we want teams to adjust to us. So we want to set the pace. We want to have our structure being played. So they have to focus more on what we're doing, less so much as like we're adjusting to everything they're doing. So obviously the two teams are very different that we're playing like week in, week out kind of thing, like with Watertown and Binghamton. But more so of like maybe like the shinny perspective of stuff and like the more structured stuff, like as we're kind of explaining. We don't really focus on it too much. Like we said, we want to have the puck. We want to contain the pressure. We want to contain possession and kind of play off of that.
Goalie group has gotten a few starts amongst itself. What have you kind of seen amongst them as they've made their starts and have had some resilient ones as well?
Yeah, we've definitely bought them a couple meals over this past weekend. We haven't been playing the best for them, especially myself included there. But we got 3 guys, probably 3 of the top 5 goalies in the league, in my opinion, for sure. They all care. They all push each other to get better at practice day in, day out. And it's nice having a tandem of goalies where we don't care who's in net. We know who's ever going to go in the net is going to give us a chance to win that night. And it's going to stay that way for the rest of the year.
You mentioned the importance of having a chance to win because everybody's doing their job in the net. What do you think this team can prove this weekend if it wins 1, if not 2, against the Black Bears?
I think anytime you win a game, it just shows that you prepared well during that week. But again, it's a week-by-week basis. It's a game-by-game basis. So, we're looking forward to Friday. We're excited to get back in front of our fans. We did not put on a good performance last weekend in front of them, and we owe them all a big game on Friday. So we're excited to get that going.
And as you're here in your second season in Danbury, you've worked with multiple D-men before. You've seen how different matchups look at this level of hockey where some individuals are making that transition in their first year as they're younger. And then others, they've had more experience playing in the SPHL. They've played other levels of hockey as well throughout junior hockey and college. How do you work with different defensemen and pairings as the season goes on from game 1 all the way towards the playoffs as well?
Yeah, so obviously only 6 guys can play per game. Sometimes you get 7, so you kind of mix and match. Obviously, you have like your certain partner per se, but you got to be willing to get on the ice with whoever, whether there's like penalties, power play, penalty kill, a 5-on-5, anything like that. So it's more so just like communication. Obviously, we talk during the week. We'll mix up the pairs during practice. You get a different feel of like lefty, lefty, righty, righty, lefty, righty, maybe opposite sides kind of idea. So you can see more looks on the ice. So you're pretty much practicing for putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation so that you're more comfortable about it when there's pressure during the game. So, it doesn't really matter, like, to me per se, like, who I'm playing with because I'm a big talker on the ice. Like, I got a pretty loud voice. I talk quite often.
I can hear you.
Yeah. So, it's not too bad for me, but, for the adjustment for most guys, it's pretty much all the same. Like, we've been playing hockey, most of us here, for more than 10 years. You know what I mean? It's not our first time playing with, like, a lefty or a righty. So, it's just more so gap positioning, stuff like that you work on during the week. But by the time game comes, you should be ready for it if you're doing your job right.
Back check is a huge attribute to go against Binghamton and be able to keep it to 1 goal per period, if not 1 goal per game, as you'd hope for. What are the biggest attributes you feel this defenseman group has shown through this first 10 games of the season?
Like positive attributes, I think like we try our best not to let things snowball. We like most of the time make simple plays, but honestly, like being frank with you, like we haven't been good. Like our forwards are doing their job in the most sense. Our goalies are definitely doing their job, but our D, like we haven't been good enough. Like we got to be a lot better moving forward, and that starts with me and that starts with Gonzo. And we know that. That's why this week we've been, like I was saying to Doug beforehand, instead of like going on the ice for like maybe 40 to 50 minutes, like during the week, we're on there like over an hour and a half every day, and we're working hard. Like we're pushing ourselves, like the D especially, all 6 of us, 7 of us sometimes, to get better. And like we all know personally that we all got a job to do, and we got to be a lot better moving forward here.
Yeah, it seems like the work ethic has really picked up, particularly with making adjustments to extending practices as well. What is the message going into this weekend where you'd like to take 2 from Binghamton, stay competitive in the division race?
Exactly like you just said. We got to stay competitive, you know what I mean? Like we don't want it to happen where last year where we had like a couple of sluggish off nights where obviously at the end of the year when you get hot and you're trying to catch a team, like last year was Motor City in front of us, you're trying to catch them and you lose out by 2 points on home ice advantage in the playoffs. Well, maybe if we didn't like slow down for a couple games and lose like out on free points, like in a sense there, that we would have home ice. We wouldn't be taking 2 trips to Motor City kind of idea for a best of 3 series. So we just got to make sure that every game matters moving forward and every point matters. So if we're up 2-1, we got to learn how to close games. Like I said before, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable moving forward.
Josh, thanks for your time. The Hat Tricks drop the puck Friday night against the Black Bears, 7:30 p.m. here at the Danbury Ice Arena. We'll see you then.